Imagine for a second that you are like a brilliant financial consultant.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. And you have just spent hours, I mean literal hours, researching, writing, and recording this incredibly nuanced 40-minute breakdown of the global economy.
Which is a ton of work.
Exactly. So you upload it, you push it out to the world, and you wait for the audience to arrive. But, and here is the kicker, you end up losing the algorithm to a 19-year-old applying neon green eyeshadow in her bedroom.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is, it's a brutal reality check for a lot of traditional creators.
It really is. And you have to ask why. Well, it's because she understands a concept called creative makeup. And according to our source material today, if you do not start studying and copying her strategy immediately, your podcast or, your business platform is essentially invisible.
Yeah, and we are so conditioned to believe that the merit of our ideas, like the actual substance, will just speak for itself. But the sources we're looking at today, they argue that the merit of the idea is completely irrelevant if the delivery mechanism fails to stop a thumb from scrolling.
Which brings us perfectly to the mission for today's deep dive. We are unpacking this fascinating manifesto from a thought leader named Sydney. Our notes actually describe her as a creative baddie, which, I mean, what a fantastic title.
Yeah, such a good descriptor.
Right. And she is bridging two worlds that most people would never put in the same sentence. On one side, you've got the highly visual, very tactile art of creative makeup. And on the other side, the deeply technical, strategic world of business media and podcasting.
And Sydney is not just, making some superficial comparison here. She is laying out a very specific, highly engineered blueprint. She basically argues that creators of all kinds need to go all in on creative makeup right now.
Especially the ones sitting in front of microphones talking about like B2B sales or history.
Exactly. And not necessarily wearing the makeup, obviously, but adopting the structural workflow behind it to build this massive media platform.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my initial reaction to this was just a massive mix of fascination and honestly deep skepticism.
Sure, yeah. It sounds like a stretch at first.
Right, because I want to understand how a makeup tutorial translates into a media empire. Like historically, if I watch a makeup video, it is purely instructional. You put on foundation, you blend the contour, you do the eyeliner.
It's step by step.
Exactly. It's a linear process with an end product.
Yeah.
So how does Sydney twist that into a business strategy?
Well, the shift happens when you stop looking at the makeup as an end product and start looking at the application process as like a content engine.
A content engine.
Yeah. Sydney's thesis for the beauty community is that the modern creator isn't actually in the business of teaching makeup anymore. They're in the business of manufacturing raw, highly volatile visual material.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when a creator sits down to execute this elaborate artistic makeup look, they are not just making a 20-minute tutorial video. They are essentially initiating a massive data capture session.
So they are planning this entire distribution web before the brush even touches the palette.
Exactly that. Like a 3-hour makeup application is recorded from multiple angles, and that raw footage becomes the source code. The creator doesn't just post the final look at the end.
Right. That would be a waste of all that footage.
Right. They isolate the transformation, that stark contrast between the bare face and the avant-garde art. They slice out these 5-second, high-impact micro clips for platforms that really reward visual shock value.
So they're pulling high-resolution still frames for aesthetic social feeds too, I bet.
Yes, and they might even strip the audio of them talking through like a vulnerable personal story during the makeup process and use that as an entirely separate podcast piece.
Okay, so instead of a makeup video being a one-and-done painting, Sydney is saying it's more like a blockbuster movie franchise.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like, one video becomes the teaser trailers, the merchandise, the spin-off series, and the behind-the-scenes documentary. It's a complete content engine. But I do want to push on why makeup specifically works so well as the engine for this franchise. What is the actual mechanism there?
What's fascinating here is that it all comes down to human psychology and pattern disruption. I mean, the hardest problem in digital media right now is capturing attention long enough to actually deliver your message.
Right, because everyone is just endlessly scrolling.
Exactly. And human beings are biologically hardwired to look at faces. So when you take a human face and you apply striking color theory or exaggerated shapes or unexpected textures, which is basically the definition of creative makeup, it creates this immediate cognitive dissonance for the viewer.
Wait, cognitive dissonance? Like their brain just kind of stutters for a second.
Yes, their brain literally has to pause to process what they are looking at. And in today's digital landscape, that pause is the most valuable commodity on the internet.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. The visual novelty creates a psychological speed bump.
A speed bump, yes, exactly.
You force the viewer to stop their rapid scrolling because their brain just needs a second to decode the visual information. And I guess during that 1 second pause, you hook them with the narrative or your personality.
And that completely redefines the identity of the creator,
Oh.
It transforms a makeup lover from a hobbyist or even just a skilled artisan into a full-fledged programming director.
Because they're managing all these different streams of content from one session.
Right. They use the sheer visual retention of that content to build an audience, pitch massive sponsors, and basically monetize a sprawling media platform.
Huh.
The makeup is just the bait, really. The architecture behind it is a full media company.
Okay, I can definitely see how that blockbuster franchise model works brilliantly for a beauty influencer whose primary currency is, their visual aesthetic. But this is where the outline moves into completely different territory.
Yeah, this is the big pivot.
Citi insists that this exact blueprint is crucial for an entirely different demographic. We're talking audio-first creators, speakers, consultants, educators, entrepreneurs.
That is the core of her manifesto, honestly. The audience expansion. She's looking directly at traditional podcasters and business owners and telling them, hey, your current playbook is totally broken.
But let's make this concrete for the listener, because the term creative makeup gets a little confusing here. Wait, how does creative makeup actually help a podcaster with their voice? Are we talking about the idea that in a modern, video-driven landscape, your visual branding and your audio storytelling are now completely inseparable?
Yes, exactly that. Because, to be clear, she is not suggesting you literally wear avant-garde makeup.
Right, the financial consultant isn't putting on neon blue lipstick to talk about interest rates.
No, thankfully no. She is using creative makeup as a structural metaphor for visual branding and visual hooks. Think about it. For decades, a podcaster or an educator relied entirely on the quality of their ideas and the timbre of their physical voice.
Yeah, you could sit in a dark closet with a good microphone. And if your ideas were profound, you would find an audience. The audio was the entire product.
But the ecosystem has fundamentally changed. Today, audio is almost exclusively discovered visually.
That's so true. Podcasts live on YouTube or discovery happens through short-form visual clips on TikTok or Instagram.
Right. So when Sydney says a traditional speaker or a financial consultant needs creative makeup, she means they must treat their visual aesthetic, the lighting, the framing, the set design, their body language, with the exact same obsessive, scroll-stopping artistry that a beauty influencer applies to their face.
Because if they don't, they just don't cut through the noise to attract a community. If a consultant sits in front of a flat, gray wall wearing a gray shirt and delivers the most life-changing business advice ever spoken, nobody hears it.
Because the visual data tells the viewer's brain, oh, this is boring, keep scrolling, before the audio even has a chance to register.
Wow.
So the creative makeup for a podcaster might be a highly curated, visually striking studio set that instantly communicates their vibe.
Or dynamic camera angles, maybe?
Yeah, angles that shift based on the emotional intensity of the conversation. Or it might be aggressive, hyper-stylized typography on screen. It is basically whatever visual hook creates that psychological speed bump we talked about earlier.
I see what you mean, but let me challenge that premise for a second. If every single podcaster out there suddenly builds a cinematic, hyper-stimulated visual set with multiple angles and aggressive lighting, doesn't that just create a brand new type of visual noise?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Like if everyone is screaming visually, aren't we right back to square one where nobody can be heard?
Yeah.
How does Sydney's strategy prevent a creator from just joining a much louder echo chamber?
That is a phenomenal pushback, and the source material actually addresses this implicitly by emphasizing authenticity in the creative makeup process. The goal isn't just to be loud or to blindly copy whatever visual trend is currently popular.
Because that would just be visual noise.
Exactly. The goal is to design a visual identity that is uniquely and inextricably linked to your specific voice and message. It's all about intentionality.
So it's not about slapping a bunch of neon lights in the background just because neon is trendy on YouTube right now.
Precisely. If you are a financial consultant whose brand is all about stark, pragmatic truth, your creative makeup shouldn't look like a gaming streamer's bedroom.
Right, that would be totally jarring.
It should perhaps be a stark, minimalist set with incredibly sharp, dramatic contrast lighting that really underscores the seriousness of your message. The visual has to serve as the perfect delivery mechanism for the audio.
Okay, that makes sense.
The real aha moment here is realizing that in today's Discovery channels, the audio isn't the product anymore. The audio is the script. The visual hook is the actual product that gets them in the door.
The audio is the script, the visual hook is the product. That completely flips the traditional hierarchy of podcasting on its head. You aren't dressing up the audio, you are using the audio to score the visual. But I mean, if I am a solo creator listening to this, or even a small team, my blood pressure is probably spiking right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like an impossible amount of work.
Exactly. Because managing a massive visual-first content engine while also being an educator or podcaster sounds exhausting. You're already spending hours researching your topic, writing outlines, recording. Now, Sydney is saying you also need to act as a Hollywood set designer, a lighting technician, a multicam director, and a video editor who meticulously slices up a 2-hour interview.
Just to find that one perfect 5-second visual hook.
Right. Humanly speaking, if you attempt to manage a workflow of this magnitude by yourself, you will burn out in a month.
You would. The manual labor required to execute this strategy at scale is staggering. And that leads to the final piece of Sydney's strategy, which is technological integration. You have the art, you have the strategy, and then you have the tech layer.
Specifically, the integration of AI into this podcast workflow.
Yes, AI is the tool that allows creators to actually execute Sydney's vision without losing their minds. It's about editing smarter and repurposing those creative makeup clips efficiently.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you have this incredible contrast, right? You're mixing the highly human, very tactile art of creative makeup or crafting an intimate conversational atmosphere with the cold, calculated efficiency of AI workflows to build a business. Break down the mechanics for us. What is the AI actually doing in a practical sense?
Well, think back to the problem you just outlined. The podcaster has just recorded a brilliant 2-hour interview on a visually stunning set.
Okay.
Manually scrubbing through 2 hours of footage to find the 3 perfect, viral-worthy moments takes hours of tedious labor. You have to find the moment, crop the framing for mobile screens, add captions, color grade the export.
It's exhausting just listing it out, honestly.
So instead, they feed that 2-hour raw video file into an AI-driven editing workflow. But the AI doesn't just cut randomly. This isn't just about finding where someone started talking when they stopped. The advanced tools Sydney champions are looking for what they call mechanism triggers.
Mechanism triggers. What does a mechanism trigger look like to an AI? Like, how does a machine know what a good podcast clip is?
It's actually analyzing both the audio and visual data simultaneously. On the audio side, it scans the waveform for emotional resonance. It looks for sudden spikes in volume or rapid changes in pitch or, moments where two speakers begin talking over each other in an excited debate.
Right, because those audio cues suggest passion or conflict. It's mathematically looking for the heat in the conversation.
Exactly. But then it cross-references that audio heat with the visual data. It uses computer vision to track microexpressions and body language.
No way. Really?
Yeah. It asks, did the guest suddenly lean dramatically forward into the microphone? Did the host throw their hands up? Did someone's eyebrows shoot up in surprise? The AI finds the exact milliseconds where the audio-emotional peak perfectly syncs with the spike in visual novelty.
Oh, wow. So it locates the absolute highest concentration of human energy in that entire 2-hour file.
Yes, and then it automates the tedious execution part. It automatically isolates that 30-second clip. It uses facial tracking algorithms to ensure the speaker's face stays perfectly centered in a vertical, mobile-friendly frame, even if they lean out of the original shot.
That is wild.
It generates high-retention, dynamic captions that highlight the most important words, and it prepares the metadata for social platforms.
So it effectively acts as a tireless, highly analytical director sitting in the editing bay. I mean, it fundamentally shifts where a creator spends their energy. Instead of being a tired video editor staring at a timeline at 2 in the morning, you spend 100% of your energy being a pure performer while the camera rolls.
You focus entirely on being visually and audibly striking.
Yeah.
And the AI makes sure that effort is weaponized for maximum distribution.
It completely levels the playing field.
It really does. It allows a solo consultant or an independent podcaster to output the volume and quality of a massive media company. The AI handles the slicing, the dicing, and the distribution, leaving the human to handle the art and the message.
And our sources highlight that this isn't just theoretical. There is a specific gathering point where all of these distinct worlds, The visual creators, the audio podcasters, the business strategists, and the AI developers are physically coalescing. They talk about something called the Podcast Summit.
Right, the Podcast Summit. It represents a laboratory where Sydney's blueprint is being tested and taught in real time.
Mm.
It is positioned as this high-energy environment where the philosophy of tactile art meets the absolute pragmatism of AI software.
It's where the theory becomes practice. You have thousands of creators realizing they are all essentially playing the exact same game, regardless of their niche.
Yes.
Whether you are a creative baddie doing avant-garde makeup tutorials or an entrepreneur explaining supply chain logistics, the required architecture is identical.
You must have a visual hook that stops the scroll. You must have a narrative that retains the attention. And you must utilize AI to scale that process so you don't destroy your own life in the process.
Good.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Sydney's providing the roadmap that proves these disciplines are not siloed anymore. She is marrying visual creativity with audio storytelling and tech to create an unstoppable modern creator. The rigorous workflow required to build a massive audience around beauty content is the exact same discipline required to build an empire around educational podcasting.
Only the subject matter changes. So if you are listening to this right now, whether you are prepping for a meeting, brainstorming a new project, or just trying to figure out how to get your ideas heard, what does this actually mean for you? Let's recap the incredibly strange but logical journey we just went on.
It was quite the journey, yeah.
We started with a concept that seemed entirely irrelevant to traditional business, a makeup artist explaining how to turn beauty tutorials into a content engine.
But then we discovered that the makeup was actually a masterclass in visual psychology and ecosystem design. We broke down how a single visual session acts as the raw material for an entire media franchise.
One designed from the ground up to capture attention in an environment where attention is incredibly scarce. And we explored the uncomfortable truth that for podcasters, speakers, and educators, the quality of your audio message is pretty much useless if you don't adopt this visual-first mindset.
Your set design, your camera presence, your visual branding, your version of creative makeup is the only thing that buys you the right to be heard today.
And finally, we looked at how AI makes this daunting transition survivable. By leveraging algorithms to track emotional resonance and visual engagement, a solo creator can operate an intricate media platform without burning out, which leads to a final implication that I think is worth chewing on long after this deep dive is over.
Lay it on us. Where does this leave the future of content? Well, if visual elements, what Sydney metaphorically calls creative makeup, are now the absolute prerequisite for an audio creator to build a platform and cut through the algorithmic noise, does pure standalone audio even exist as a viable growth medium anymore?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
Right. We really have to ask ourselves, are we just dressing up the audio to play the algorithm's game?
Yeah.
Or are we witnessing the birth of an entirely new, inseparable art form where the visual and the auditory rely so heavily on each other that they can no longer be decoupled?
That is a staggering thought to leave on. Is the podcast dead and something entirely new has taken its place? It completely reframes how you have to think about packaging your own ideas. I know I will never look at a minimalist podcast studio or a bold eyeshadow tutorial the exact same way again. There is a deeply calculated engine running beneath both of them. Thanks for exploring this blueprint with us today. Keep diving deep.